Those Dallas Cowboys, they snuck in and stole one from us. This was one of the top candidates, in my opinion. He was within the last defensive coordinator hiring cycle. He was one that was on Matt LaFleur's short list, and that is Christian Parker. He is now was most recently the defensive passing game coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Done a heck of a job there. He had been out in Denver before. He was here in Green Bay for 1 year, kind of being a quality control coach, top analyst, type role. But the Dallas Cowboys, as you can see here, they have poached him. So Adam Schefter just put an article up on ESPN. It says more about the Dallas Cowboys agreeing to a deal to make Christian Parker their defensive coordinator. So Christian Parker off the board. I said my top two choices out of all these guys, Tim, of the ones that we felt like were semi-available, would be Christian Parker and Brian Flores. Christian Parker agrees to a deal here with the Dallas Cowboys. Brian Flores, it sounds like, is going back to Minnesota if he doesn't get a head coaching job. And it's starting to look like he may not get a head coaching job. Really, really interesting to see how all that's going to fall into place. But, Tim, this is I think it's a pretty big loss here, man. I was really, really interested in Christian Parker. Now, listen, there's others as well. We'll talk about them. But just to get your take here, how did you feel about Christian Parker? Was he your top choice, or was he just kind of in the top five line in the weeds? How'd you feel about him, man?
Yeah, he was in top five, top three kind of range, Another one bites the dust, as they say, right? But best wishes to him, except when we meet the Cowboys again, it will happen. It's unfortunate, but yeah, he was definitely on the radar. I think B-Flow was probably closer to the top of my list, and it looks like he's probably out of the loop as well, barring anything crazy. But Al Harris is entertaining, and Jim Leonhard is entertaining as well. I think when it comes to Al Harris, a guy who's never been a DC before, how appropriate would it be for him to get his first crack at it here in Green Bay? But even that seems like a long shot. He's on other interviews, and, it's that time of year. But, Christian Parker going to Dallas does not make me feel good. Kind of changes the way we look at things as far as who our candidates are. And, as the days and weeks progress, things are going to change pretty rapidly here, as if they haven't already. It's gonna pick up a little more. But yeah, I was definitely sad to see Christian Parker go to Dallas for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So just to kind of update everybody here, with Christian Parker accepting the Dallas Cowboys offer, there are now 3 candidates the Packers are actively pursuing. Again, actively pursuing. I should have put it in quotations. Jonathan Gannon, sounds like he's got 2 interviews set up with the Packers. So he was going to interview one day, then come back for a second interview. I don't know if they're trying to do it in one fell swoop. Is that the signal that maybe Matt LaFleur likes Jonathan Gannon more than others? I know Packer fans are kind of at odds with the Jonathan Gannon choice. He definitely wouldn't be my top choice, although it is somewhat appealing that he does have a little bit of head coaching experience, albeit pretty rough go at it out there in Arizona. But I will say this, I didn't realize that they were like 9-6 before I think it was a flurry of injuries happened. So he had them on the right track for a short bit. Obviously, it fell apart after that. Now, you go back to his Philly days, had a lot of success there in Philadelphia as the defensive coordinator there before. So obviously, he's put together some pretty strong defenses. Now, another one here, really appealing. When I think of a young candidate, a young unproven candidate that's not named Jim Leonhard, I think of Daronte Jones, right? Yeah. Vikings defensive passing game coordinator. He's a guy that I think is a young up-and-comer. To me, he kind of feels like he's just behind Christian Parker, with Christian Parker kind of being one of those quick risers in the league. I think Daronte Jones could be in a similar vein there as well. Now, Al Harris, the Chicago Bears defensive passing game coordinator, obviously everybody knows who Al Harris is.
Here's a guy.
If you guys did not see the video earlier today that I did, go back and watch it. Man, his rise through the rankings has been really, really interesting. Again, when you look at Chicago's rankings, Tim, it's not pretty, man. They had a really bad defense last year. Now, don't get me wrong, turnover differential. If you were to say, Clayton, sell me on Al Harris, here would be my pitch. 2 things. Turnover differential, not turnover differential, but turnovers in general. They were second, I think, second or third in takeaways, and right around the same range in interceptions specifically. Okay, so obviously turnover differential is huge in the National Football League. You got to take the ball away to win the turnover differential, and they did that really well. The second thing, if you look at the last 3 games of the season, Tim, they're in the regular season, they were really, really playing good defense. I mean, they got to the point where they were like top 10 in most rankings. So again, overall for the 2025 season, it was cheeks. They were somewhere between 22 and 28 whether it comes to scoring defense, run defense, yards per play, yards per pass attempt, all of that, they were pretty bad overall. But again, if you were to have me try to sell you on this, Tim, it would be they created a lot of turnovers. He did the same thing in Dallas, was really good when he was the DB coach down there, turning the ball over. And also down the stretch, they seem to get significantly better as well, man. Of these three, putting you on the spot, who would you choose, man? Jonathan Gannon, Daronte Jones, or Al Harris?
With my heart, Al Harris.
Agreed.
With my brain, Daronte Jones out of these three. Actually, it might be a toss-up between Gannon and Jones because at least Gannon's got, head coaching experience. My only hesitation with Jones and Harris is the fact that this is your first crack at literally being the DC. The whole defense is your responsibility. And, rooter to the tutor, as they would say. And what can you say more about Al Harris that hasn't been already said? I would love for his first shot to be here at 1265, but if I'm using my football brain, between those two, I'd probably go Jones first. Yeah.
And nobody's saying that. I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but we're not sitting here saying Al Harris would not be a good defensive coordinator. We just don't know. Right.
We just don't know. Right.
Yeah. And we don't know about a lot of these guys, but you've got a little bit different trajectory for some of these other cats. Right. And if it wasn't for Chicago's defense being so bad in all those categories overall in the season, you look at Daronte Jones with the Minnesota Vikings and they were top 5 with pretty much everything. So they were
solid. Yeah.
And I understand if the sentiment is, well, that doesn't mean Daronte Jones is a good coach. That's to be said about everybody here. Right. However, what it does tell me is he was right there in-house. And he was coordinating the defense's approach to stopping the passing game, and he got to see B-Flow operate at a high level as a defensive coordinator. To me, that's the best on-the-job training you can get, as opposed to Al Harris down there, with God, I always forget his name, Dennis Allen. And you look at that defense struggling all year long, although they put it together at the end. It's kind of the opposite effect, if you will. So again, just a quick little snippet on all of them. I'll read this off in rapid fashion. We'll get to some other news and we'll talk some NFL draft. Al Harris, Packers Hall of Famer, is a fan favorite. He completed his interview on Wednesday. He's coming off a massive season in Chicago where his secondary led the NFL with 23 interceptions. He's also a candidate for the Commanders' defensive coordinator job. If you guys don't remember, he was the DB coach under Dan Quinn when Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. That defense was good enough to land Dan Quinn the head coaching job at Washington. So
would you say the consensus with Al Harris is probably he's going to get a DC job? It's just a matter of who's going to hire him at this point?
Well, no, man. I wouldn't rule it out. But at the same time, it just kind of feels like this has been his first stint getting a lot of interviews, So sometimes all of these guys can't get a job, right? So really what it's going to come down to, like when you look at some of these, I think most fan bases, and not that it matters what the fan bases think, but, most owners, most coaching staffs, head coaches, they're going to look up and go, okay, Jonathan Gannon, right? If you have a top pitch for all these guys, Jonathan Gannon, former head coach, Daronte Jones, young up and comer, might not want to miss the opportunity to hire him right now. Jim Leonhard, right? That's a guy, he's kind of in the same boat as a Daronte Jones, just less NFL experience, if I remember correctly. Christian Parker obviously just got hired by the Dallas Cowboys. He's been a step ahead of all these guys, essentially. Al Harris, what do you hang your hat on? Well, he was on a bad defense, but they forced a lot of turnovers. So it kind of feels like maybe he doesn't get a job, but Dan Quinn looking for a DC, I guarantee you he thinks they could probably rekindle some of that in Washington that they had in Dallas.
They'd arguably be the front runner, right? If he's going to get a DC job. Yeah,
definitely. And the other thing too, think about it this way. If Al Harris gets offered both of those jobs, Washington's DC job and Green Bay's DC job, you're talking about a tough decision for him. The guy who gave him an opportunity before, kind of helped him really bust into the league and make a name for himself, do you stay loyal to him? Or do you go back home to Green Bay where the fans are going to lose their mind if we get Al Harris? So it's going to be very interesting. So
Bob Saleh is going to be in Tennessee, right? I was holding out to some hope there. He was up here at the facility last year. We all saw that, and we know about him and Matt's relationship. I was holding on to some hope that he might not get a head coaching look, but clearly that's changed. And the chips are moving around right now. I think at this point, Raheem Morris might even be off the board. Just looking at, kind of the rumor mill and everything. So I think we're looking at this kind of crop of candidates right now, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and Raheem's one of those. I wouldn't be surprised if we hired him, but also there's so many other teams that would be very interested in him. Like if Chris Shula leaves the LA Rams, I think that Sean McVay's going to come calling Raheem again, like, hey, come on back home, because that's where he was at a few years ago, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's going to be interesting there as well. So Jonathan Gannon, obviously, despite a tough tenure at the Cardinals as the Cardinals head coach, Gannon's highly respected for his 2022 Eagles defense. LaFleur has publicly praised his coaching style, and he's seen as a high experience, safe hire, if you will. And that makes a lot of sense. Daronte Jones, poaching him from a rival is the theme this year. Jones led the NFL's #1 pass defense in Minnesota this past season and has history in the state of Wisconsin. He was actually a former Wisconsin Badger assistant. So, hey, we'd be okay with those Badger ties for sure. And then, of course, you've got Jim Leonhard. And I like what Nick Lynn says here in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, I'd put my money on Jim Leonhard getting the job. My gut says they would have already hired someone if he wasn't their guy. And what he's talking about there, Tim, if I understand the rules correctly, and everybody go do your own research, because again, sometimes the rule book they'll say one thing across the NFL, and the next thing you know, there's this little bitty clause here that they can get away with doing something else. But it's my understanding that win or lose after this week, Jim Leonhard can be interviewed. Okay, even if they win and go into the Super Bowl, there's a week off there where these guys can interview. Now, sometimes they decline interviews because out of respect for their current team, but I think it's safe to say the Patriots should be able to win that ball game against Denver, seeing that it's Jared Stidham starting, with obviously Bo Nix having that horrible injury and being out the rest of the playoffs. So we may get an opportunity to interview him this week. Nick, you may be onto something there, man. If we look up this week and all of a sudden, bang, an interview gets scheduled, he may have been the top choice all along. Now, will Jimmy Leonhard take it? Before he turned it down, but it was my understanding he wanted to go back to college. He didn't want to. He didn't want to go to the pros. So now he's in the pros, probably more likely to take it. Of course, Daryl in the chat agrees. He said, "Yeah, Jim Leonhard's one of those defensive-minded coaches that can coach the defense. He's a heck of a coach, man. A heck of a leader too. Somebody who's been in the trenches and done it along the way for sure." So, Jim Leonhard, the white whale. I love how AI pulled that and said the white whale, right? For many Packer fans, because the Denver Broncos are currently preparing for the AFC Championship, the Packers cannot officially interview or hire him until their season ends. Again, I think there's a loophole there that he can actually interview next week. You guys go double check that. And of course, Christian Parker, we talked about, he signed with the Dallas Cowboys. So those are some of the candidates. Again, it's not all of them. Last year, Tim, nobody was sitting there saying Jeff Hafley is going to be your next DC. He came out of kind of nowhere, right? So that could happen again. And obviously that proved to be a good hire. And
I can't wait for Sunday, like the tail of the tape will be if somehow, some way, Denver finds a way to win that ball game.
Yeah.
And Jim Leonhard comes out here anyways for an interview. Like you said, it's, kind of the respect factor. There's no rule violation. You can interview for a job for next season, right? So if they win and, that week between Championship Sunday and Super Bowl Sunday, he comes out to Green Bay for an interview, that might tell us all we need to know, I think, at that point about at least his intentions. Yeah. Going forward. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Jason Y with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate you. Says, am I the only one that wants a DC who's kind of hard-nosed a-hole and shakes things up? I do not care if he's friends with Matt LaFleur or from Wisconsin. No, you're not the only one. There's many people that aren't Wisconsin fans that are Packer fans, and they feel that same sentiment there, Jason. As a matter of fact, you want to know one that felt that before? It was this guy. The last hiring cycle, I remember pissing a lot of Wisconsin Badger fans off, and I didn't mean to. I root for the Badgers, man. I want them to do well because I got a lot of friends in Wisconsin that I want their college team to do well, the college program to do well. But I would always ask them, if he didn't have his Wisconsin Badger ties, would you still want him? And they got pissed, which told me the answer because we know.
I'm looking more at the Denver tape this year.
Bingo. So,
when I'm considering that, yeah.
My whole pushback was, hey, he hasn't had any experience in the NFL, right? Well, now he has. And you're seeing what he's done as the passing game coordinator up there for the defense in Denver. Okay, now I feel comfortable with it. Before it was like, let's kind of see what he can accomplish in the league. Now, when you describe a hard-nosed a-hole and shakes things up, Jimmy Leonhard's kind of intense from what I've heard. Anyone who's played with him, that dude would put his face in a fan for his teammates, right? He's one of those kind of, gritty.
He's wired up that way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I love Jeff Hafley, but Jeff Hafley led with love in his room, right? I didn't get the sentiment that his players were scared of him. Like, oh God, I don't want to. It was they wanted to perform for him because they could tell that he cared, right? And you could hear that in the press conference in Miami, which was an awesome press conference. You guys haven't heard that? Go listen to it. He almost got emotional talking about Green Bay, talking about Matt LaFleur, talking about the fans, and how much everybody meant to him. So, but I understand where you come from, Jason. I think you make a great point, dude.
I feel that energy too. I totally feel Jason's energy right here.
Yeah.
You know, like enough is enough. We need whoever the hire is going to be, put it this way, whoever the hire is going to be, we got to nail this one. You know, I mean, it's the modern NFL. You're talking a 1 to 3 year window with anybody when it comes to coordinator or staffing positions. Sometimes you got to be prepared to do this every couple of seasons. Unless you get a guy and you nail a hire and you get someone here for the long haul and they really change things. So I totally feel that energy. You know, enough is enough. We need to perform out here.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple of other news and notes around the league as we wrap up this segment, get ready to talk some NFL draft. Tom Pelissero tweeted out the Ravens plan to hire Jesse Minter as their head coach. Sources tell the insiders it's a reunion for the Ravens and Minter, a one-time John Harbaugh assistant who now replaces him in Baltimore. If you guys don't know, you got Coach McDonald left Baltimore. He was the DC. He went to Seattle, got the head coaching job. Jesse Minter, if I remember correctly, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, he went to Michigan and they won a national title. And then he came back to the league to the LA Chargers, I believe, if I remember right, got the head coaching job. They were Jim Harbaugh. So Jim Harbaugh came from Michigan, brought Jesse Minter with him. I don't know if it's the same year. It might have been 1 year in between, but I think it was the same year. And now you're seeing Jesse Minter go back to Baltimore. So that fills in one of those voids, Tim. So now, as Mike Garafolo had tweeted out, it's halftime in the coaching cycle here, right? The Giants got John Harbaugh, Falcons got Kevin Stefanski, Dolphins got Jeff Hafley, Titans got Robert Saleh, Ravens got Jesse Minter. So the rest of the vacancies here: Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Arizona Cardinals are still sitting.
I don't think anyone's falling over themselves trying to get the Cleveland or Vegas job right now, but certainly looking like you said, or like Mike says here, you know, halftime in the coaching cycle, but look at how it's shifted, you know, the coordinator cycle here, whether it's OCs or DCs, because, you know, these guys are going to be, you know, trying to bring their staff in. You know, I'm sitting here on pins and needles wondering what's going to happen with Derek Ansley and DeMarcus Covington. And, you know, there's a lot of guys on the defensive side, at least here in Green Bay, that I'd like to possibly stick around. But, you know, with the hires that have happened, the coordinator cycle has definitely been, you know, kind of jumbled up a little bit right now, and we're kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, and Wendell Ferreira over on X put this tweet out, said Adam Stenavich is on the list of potential candidates for the Titans OC job, a play calling position under head coach Robert Saleh. Don't go to the comments on that tweet. It is toxic. There's so many Packer fans saying, take him. Yeah, you can have him. No, somebody said, we'll even throw in Butkus. I was like, I'm getting out of here before this gets out of control. These fans are, I mean, they are in peak form here in the offseason. So just keep an eye on that. Stenavich may potentially get an offer with the OC job. Now, listen, can the Packers block that? They can. I don't think Matt LaFleur has ever blocked a hire. He kind of seems like the type of guy that, hey, if you want to go there, go there. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So I think he was still a little pissed off from when I think it was the 49ers blocked his brother from being able to join his staff. I don't know if you guys remember that because it was a lateral move before. So, again, that's just a little bit of a snippet of everything else that's going on around the league with the coaching carousel. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. How do you feel? Are you bummed out that Christian Parker is now with the Dallas Cowboys? Of the three choices that we just gave you, Daronte Jones, Jonathan Gannon, Al Harris, which of those three would you like? And how do they compare and pale to Jim Leonhard? Like which, you know, if you let's just put it into those four right there: Daronte Jones from Minnesota, Jonathan Gannon, the Cardinals, Al Harris, the Chicago Bears, or Jim Leonhard from the Denver Broncos. Which of those four would you like to be your DC? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified anytime we do go live in the future. We greatly appreciate y'all hanging out with us.